Hey there, you know those moments when on the outside everything looks perfectly fine, but on the inside there's this quiet, unsettled feeling you just can't seem to shake? Well, today we're going to demystify a really gentle but surprisingly powerful tool that's designed to help with exactly that. It's all about finding what some people call emotional freedom. Does that hit home for you? Maybe it shows up as this constant low-grade exhaustion, or that same argument that keeps popping up in your relationships. Or maybe it's just a general heaviness you can't even put a name to. Whatever it is, that feeling, well, that's what we're talking about today, because it is so much more common than you'd think. So let's talk about what this really is. Because that feeling, it's not some kind of personal failure, and it's definitely not a weakness. It's just a silent, common pain. Something so many of us are carrying around a lot of the time without even knowing what to call it.
And here's the absolute core of the issue. I mean, think about it. We're taught how to do math, we're taught history, maybe even how to balance a checkbook, but how many of us were actually taught how to handle our own difficult emotions? And when those big feelings go unprocessed, they don't just, vanish. They get stored in our bodies, and they become this invisible weight we haul around every single day.
And that stored up emotion, it has this huge ripple effect. It quietly starts to shape everything, from our relationships and our quick trigger reactions to our physical health, the big decisions we make, and even how confident we feel just walking through the world. It becomes this hidden script running in the background of our lives. So if that's the problem, what's a possible solution? We're going to explore a method called EFT, and I want you to just hold on to two words here: simple and gentle. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and honestly, it's a surprisingly straightforward method. All you do is focus your awareness on whatever you're feeling, no judgment needed, while you gently tap on a few specific points on your body. The goal isn't to fight the emotion or push it down. It's actually to send a direct, calming signal to your nervous system that says, hey, it's safe to relax now. It's safe to let this go. And the whole process is just beautifully simple. You're not doing some complex analysis of your childhood. You're not forcing anything. You just acknowledge what you're feeling, you do the gentle tapping, and then you just allow your body's own natural relaxation response to kick in. That's the whole framework. Acknowledge, tap, and allow. So you might be wondering, where on earth did this simple but kind of powerful idea come from? Well, this technique didn't just appear out of thin air. It's actually the result of a really fascinating story about how we understand the connection between our minds and our bodies. You know, humans have always known this on some level, right? We talk about having a heavy heart or butterflies in our stomach. We feel fear tighten in our chest. We feel anger as heat rising in our face. EFT basically sits at the crossroads where this ancient, intuitive wisdom meets our modern understanding. The modern story really kicks off in the 1980s. A psychologist named Dr. Roger Callahan was working with a patient who had this severe phobia of water, and he stumbled upon the idea of tapping a specific point. The phobia vanished in minutes. Now, his method was really effective, but it was also pretty complex. That's when an engineer of all people named Gary Craig stepped in. He refined it, he simplified it, and he created this one single easy-to-learn sequence that we now call EFT. He basically made it accessible to everybody. Okay, but how does this actually work? How can just tapping on your face and your chest actually calm you down? Let's get into the mechanics just a little bit. So to really get it, you have to understand that we've kind of got two different brains running the show at the same time. We have our thinking brain. That's the logical part, the part that understands things. But then we have our emotional brain, and that's the part that runs on instinct, body sensations, and that classic fight or flight response. This is exactly why you can know something isn't a big deal, but your body still freaks out. You can't just logically talk yourself out of a physical reaction.
And this is where the tapping is so cool. It basically works below the level of all that conscious thought. By tapping on these specific points, you're bypassing that logical brain entirely and sending a physical signal of safety directly to your nervous system. It's like you're sending a text message to your body that it instinctively understands, and that message is simply, you are safe right now.
And what's really amazing is that the science is starting to catch up and show us what's going on. Clinical studies have actually shown that EFT tapping can significantly calm down the amygdala, that's the little alarm system in your brain. It can also lower cortisol, which is your main stress hormone, by over 20% in some studies. So in other words, it helps your brain and body literally unlearn old stress patterns on a physical level.
This all leads us to the core philosophy behind EFT, and honestly, this might just be the most revolutionary part of it all. This idea of relief without struggle is why so many people find this so relieving. It's a complete shift away from the idea that you have to fight with your emotions or endlessly dig through your past to get better. Instead, it's about working with your body's natural ability to find calm, not against it. I want you to just let that sink in for a second. Healing doesn't have to be this big, painful battle to be powerful. This is a huge change from the old no pain, no gain idea of personal growth. What the research shows is that real, lasting change often happens when our nervous system finally feels safe, not when it's being pushed and pressured.
So when you look at it that way, EFT stops being just a technique you use once for a big problem. It really becomes a life skill. It's a practical tool you can carry around in your back pocket to help you manage your inner world with a lot more gentleness and a lot more awareness day in and day out. And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. Just imagine for a second, what would our world look like if this skill, emotional regulation, was taught to us as something as basic as learning to read or write? How might our families, our schools, our workplaces be different if we all had a simple, gentle way to process our feelings instead of just trying to ignore them? Something to think about.